Chapter 1, The Arrival. Eleanor Watson had always been a skeptic. Ghost stories, haunted houses, and things that go bump in the night were the fare of the superstitious and the uneducated, she thought. However, her views were about to be profoundly challenged. It began with an innocuous letter from her late uncle's lawyer, inviting her to inspect and possibly inherit an old mansion in the remote town of Ravenwood. Despite her initial reluctance, the allure of a potential inheritance was too tempting to resist. Eleanor arrived at Ravenwood on a foggy autumn evening. The town was a relic from another era, with cobblestone streets and ancient, gnarled trees that seemed to whisper secrets in the wind. Her destination was Blackthorn Manor, a sprawling, decaying mansion that loomed over the town like a silent sentinel. The mansion was notorious among the locals, who avoided it at all costs, whispering tales of curses and restless spirits. As Eleanor approached the iron gates of Blackthorn Manor, she felt an inexplicable chill. The gates groaned open, as if reluctantly granting her passage. The path to the mansion was overgrown with weeds, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. The mansion itself was a testament to neglect, its windows dark and vacant, its once grand facade now crumbling and covered in ivy. She reached the massive oak door and, with some effort, pushed it open. The door creaked ominously, revealing a grand but dusty foyer. As she stepped inside, the temperature seemed to drop, and Eleanor felt a strange sensation, as if she were being watched. "Welcome, Miss Watson," a voice said, startling her. She turned to see a tall, gaunt man standing in the shadows. "I am Mr. Hawthorne, the caretaker. I trust your journey was uneventful?" "Yes, thank you," Eleanor replied, regaining her composure. "I received a letter about my inheritance. Can you show me around?" "Of course," Mr. Hawthorne said with a slight bow. "But I must warn you, Blackthorn Manor has a reputation. Many who come here do not stay long." Eleanor dismissed his warning with a wave of her hand. "I'm not easily frightened, Mr. Hawthorne. Lead the way." As they moved through the mansion, Eleanor couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The walls seemed to close in on her, and she thought she could hear faint whispers echoing through the halls. She attributed it to the wind and her imagination, but a gnawing sense of dread began to settle in her chest. Mr. Hawthorne led her to the master bedroom, a grand but gloomy chamber with a massive four-poster bed draped in tattered velvet. "This will be your room," he said. "I suggest you get some rest. Tomorrow, we will discuss the details of your inheritance." Eleanor nodded and closed the door behind her. As she prepared for bed, she couldn't help but feel that she was not alone. The room seemed to breathe, the shadows dancing in the flickering candlelight. She lay down, trying to convince herself that it was all in her mind. But as she drifted off to sleep, she heard a faint, disembodied whisper, "Welcome home, Eleanor." Chapter 2, The Portrait. The next morning, Eleanor awoke with a sense of unease that she couldn't quite shake. The memory of the whispered voice lingered in her mind, but she dismissed it as a vivid dream. Determined to understand the mansion's secrets, she decided to explore Blackthorn Manor on her own. As she wandered through the endless corridors, Eleanor discovered a gallery filled with portraits of stern-faced ancestors. Each painting seemed to exude a palpable aura of malevolence, their eyes following her every move. One portrait in particular caught her attention, a striking woman with raven-black hair and piercing blue eyes. The plaque beneath it read, "Lydia Blackthorn, 1856. Eleanor felt a strange connection to the woman in the portrait, as if she had seen her before. She reached out to touch the painting, and the moment her fingers brushed the canvas, a cold gust of wind swept through the gallery, extinguishing the candles and plunging the room into darkness. The whispering began again, louder this time, and Eleanor could make out fragmented phrases. "She knows. The curse must be broken." The voices seemed to come from all directions, wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. Panic set in as she fumbled for the door, her heart pounding in her chest. Finally, she burst into the hallway, gasping for breath. The whispers ceased, but the oppressive feeling remained. She hurried back to her room, where she found Mr. Hawthorne waiting for her. "Miss Watson, are you all right?" he asked, genuine concern in his eyes. "I heard voices," Eleanor said, her voice trembling. "They were whispering about a curse. What is going on in this place?" Mr. Hawthorne sighed, his expression grim. "It is time you knew the truth, Miss Watson. Blackthorn Manor is indeed cursed. Lydia Blackthorn, the woman in the portrait, was a powerful medium. She made a pact with dark forces to protect her family, but the ritual went horribly wrong. Instead of safeguarding her descendants, she condemned them to a life of torment." Eleanor felt a chill run down her spine. Why didn't anyone tell me this before? "The Blackthorn family has tried to keep the curse a secret, hoping that one day someone would find a way to break it," Mr. Hawthorne explained. "You, Miss Watson, are the last living descendant. It falls upon you to end this nightmare." Eleanor's mind raced. She had always been skeptical of the supernatural, but the events of the past 24 hours had shattered her disbelief. "What do I need to do?" "There is a ritual," Mr. Hawthorne said. "A way to summon Lydia's spirit and ask her to lift the curse. But it is dangerous. The spirits of Blackthorn Manor are restless and may try to stop you." Eleanor took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. "I have no choice. I must try." Chapter 3, The Summoning. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and darkness enveloped the mansion, Eleanor prepared for the summoning ritual. Mr. Hawthorne provided her with the necessary items: candles, a bowl of salt, and a book of ancient incantations. He warned her once more of the dangers, but Eleanor was determined. They set up the ritual in the grand parlor, clearing the dust-covered furniture to create a circle of protection with the salt. Eleanor placed the candles at each cardinal point and lit them, their flames flickering in the still air. "Remember, Miss Watson," Mr. Hawthorne said, "you must remain inside the circle at all costs. Do not break the protection, no matter what happens." Eleanor nodded, her heart pounding. She opened the book to the marked page and began to read the incantation aloud. The words felt foreign on her tongue, heavy with an ancient power that resonated through the room. As she chanted, the temperature dropped sharply, and the candle flames danced wildly. Shadows gathered in the corners of the room, coalescing into indistinct shapes. The whispers returned, louder and more insistent, swirling around her like a cyclone. "Lydia Blackthorn," Eleanor called out, her voice steady despite her fear. "I summon you. Come forth and face your descendant." The air seemed to crackle with energy, and the shadows converged into a single form. Lydia Blackthorn materialized before Eleanor, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "You have summoned me, Eleanor," Lydia said, her voice echoing with a haunting melody. "Why do you disturb my rest?" Eleanor took a step forward, her courage bolstered by the presence of her ancestor. "I seek to end the curse you placed on our family. Please, Lydia, release us from this torment." Lydia's expression softened, and for a moment, Eleanor saw a flicker of regret in her eyes. "The curse was never meant to harm. I sought only to protect my loved ones. But I was deceived by the very forces I tried to command." "Then help me," Eleanor pleaded. "Tell me how to break the curse." Lydia raised her hands, and a cold wind swept through the room, snuffing out the candles. The shadows grew darker, and the whispers turned into agonized wails. "You must confront the darkness that dwells within Blackthorn Manor. Only by facing your deepest fears can you hope to break the curse." But before Eleanor could respond, Lydia's form dissipated, leaving her alone in the darkened room. The shadows pressed in, and Eleanor felt a wave of terror wash over her. She clung to the knowledge that Lydia had given her. The key to breaking the curse lay within the mansion's depths. Chapter 4, The Descent. Determined to confront the darkness, Eleanor ventured deeper into Blackthorn Manor. The air grew colder and heavier with each step, and the oppressive atmosphere seemed to sap her strength. She followed the whispers, allowing them to guide her through the labyrinthine corridors and down into the bowels of the mansion. She reached a heavy, iron door at the end of a narrow hallway. It was covered in strange, arcane symbols that seemed to writhe and shift before her eyes. Taking a deep breath, Eleanor pushed the door open and stepped into the darkness beyond. The room she entered was vast and cavernous, lit by a dim, eerie glow that emanated from the walls themselves. In the center of the room stood a massive, ancient tree, its gnarled branches reaching up toward the ceiling. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and Eleanor could hear the faint, rhythmic beating of a heart. As she approached the tree, she saw that its roots were entwined around a stone altar, upon which lay a withered, mummified figure. The whispers grew louder, coalescing into a cacophony of voices that seemed to emanate from the very walls. "Eleanor Watson," a voice boomed, cutting through the noise. It was deep and resonant, filled with a malevolent power. "You dare to challenge the darkness within Blackthorn Manor?" Eleanor stood her ground, her heart pounding in her chest. "I am here to break the curse and free my family from your torment." The figure on the altar stirred, its eyes snapping open to reveal hollow, empty sockets. "You cannot break the curse," it intoned. "The darkness is eternal. You will fail, as all those before you have failed." Eleanor felt a surge of fear but refused to back down. "I will not fail," she said, her voice unwavering. "I have faced my fears and summoned the courage to confront you. Release my family, or face the consequences." The figure laughed, a hollow, mirthless sound that echoed through the chamber. "Very well, Eleanor Watson. If you wish to break the curse, you must make a sacrifice. Offer your own soul in place of your family's, and the curse will be lifted." Eleanor hesitated, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. She knew that sacrificing herself was the only way to save her family, but the thought of eternal torment filled her with dread. Drawing upon the strength she had found within herself, Eleanor stepped forward and placed her hand on the stone altar. "I offer my soul in exchange for my family's freedom," she declared, her voice steady. The chamber shook, and the whispers grew deafening. The figure on the altar let out a blood-curdling scream as it began to dissolve into ash. The tree's roots recoiled, and the oppressive darkness that had filled the room started to dissipate. As the last remnants of the curse faded away, Eleanor felt a sense of peace wash over her. She knew that she had succeeded, and her family's torment was finally over. But as the darkness receded, she felt herself slipping away, her consciousness fading into the void. Chapter 5: The Legacy. Eleanor awoke to the sound of birdsong and the gentle warmth of sunlight on her face. She opened her eyes to find herself lying in a lush, green meadow, surrounded by wild flowers. The oppressive darkness of Blackthorn Manor was gone, replaced by a sense of tranquility and peace. She sat up, feeling a strange lightness in her chest. The weight of the curse had been lifted, and she knew that her family was finally free. As she looked around, she saw the spirits of her ancestors, their faces filled with gratitude and relief. "Thank you, Eleanor," Lydia Blackthorn said, stepping forward. "You have saved us all. The curse is broken, and our souls are at peace." Eleanor smiled, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. "I couldn't have done it without your guidance, Lydia. Thank you for helping me find the strength to face my fears." Lydia nodded, her eyes shining with pride. "You have proven yourself to be a true Blackthorn, Eleanor. Your courage and determination have restored our family's honor." As the spirits began to fade, Eleanor felt a sense of contentment settle over her. She knew that she had done the right thing, and her sacrifice had not been in vain. She had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, freeing her family from its grip. Eleanor's legacy would be one of bravery and selflessness, a testament to the power of love and determination. As she stood in the meadow, she knew that she would carry the memory of her journey with her always, a reminder of the strength that lay within her. And so, Eleanor Watson, the last of the Blackthorn line, walked into the light, her spirit unburdened and her heart at peace, knowing that she had broken the curse and saved her family from the whispers in the dark.